From Ronaldinho's free kick against England to Hakan Şükür's record-setting 11-second goal, or even Oliver Kahn becoming the first and only goalkeeper to win the Golden Ball, the 2002 World Cup was filled with magical moments. Sadly, these moments are tainted by the controversy that surrounds the tournament, involving its two hosts, Japan and Korea. In May of 1996, three nations were competing for the right to host the 2002 World Cup. Mexico, which had already hosted the tournament twice in both 1970 and 1986, launched a bid to become the first nation to host the tournament 3 times. Mexico failed to gain such traction, which led room for 2 Asian nations to compete for the chance to host the biggest tournament in soccer. 2 nations with a mixed political history, Japan and Korea, both wanted the chance to host. There were some issues with both bids. Japan, at the time, had never qualified for the tournament, and the Japanese soccer league, the J-League, had record low numbers for attendance. Korea was in a similar boat. By 1996, Korea had participated in 4 editions of the World Cup, but they were yet to win a single game, with their best performance being a 1-1 draw against Bulgaria in 1986. In order to try to improve the popularity of the sport in Korea, the Korean K-League passed its decentralization policy, forcing the 3 teams in Seoul to move. This policy was largely unsuccessful and upset the 3 Seoul-based clubs. Although at the time it was believed neither nation had the infrastructure necessary to host the cup, then FIFA President Joao Havlon saw the Japanese as a favorable host. Opposing him was UEFA President Lennart Johansson, who preferred Korea. Unable to make a decision, the idea of a World Cup co-hosted by both Korea and Japan began to take space. This was a controversial decision for 2 reasons. First of all, this was the first and only time that the World Cup would split hosting duties between 2 countries. Secondly, it seems as if Korea and Japan were chosen as co-hosts because to FIFA, an organization based in Switzerland, they were seen as not just geographical neighbors, but very culturally similar. As we know all too well, Korea and Japan have had a storied history of conflict that persists even till today. And many of the things that we perceive as similarities between the two are after effects of Japanese occupation. Regardless of their history, the hard truth was that both nations had to either accept to host half the World Cup or no World Cup at all, so terms were agreed upon. The opportunity to host the World Cup meant automatic qualification to the group stages, meaning they would get a minimum of 3 matches to prove themselves on the biggest stage in sports. And as it turned out, the 2 nations were willing to go to extremes to not let the opportunity pass them by.
Going into the tournament, Korea was placed in Group D along with Portugal, the United States, and Poland. Many believed it would be an accomplishment for Korea to even make it out of their group. Surprisingly, after 3 group stage games, Korea sat at the top of their group after beating both Poland and Portugal and getting a draw with the United States. In the round of 16, Korea would have to face one of the favorites to win the entire tournament, Italy. With soccer legends like Gianluigi Buffon, Paolo Maldini, and Francesco Totti, many believed that the Koreans did not have a chance. Even with all those names, the star of the show was Ecuadorian referee Byron Moreno. Moreno was an experienced referee, including some of the biggest games in South America, but some of the decisions that he made in this game continue to be controversial. Many remember this game through short videos that paint the Korean team as ill-disciplined and overly aggressive. Many clips show key moments where Korea got some questionable calls in their favor, like when Korean forward Lee Chun-soo kicked Paolo Maldini in the back of the head, or when Totti was given a red card for an apparent dive in the penalty box. Although the referee made some questionable decisions, in a lot of ways they were made for both teams, and it's believable that the Italians did not perform to their standards that day. After winning the first highly controversial game, Korea would go on to face Spain in the quarterfinals. Similarly to Italy, many viewed Spain as one of the favorites to win the whole tournament. This game ended up being equally as controversial. Throughout the game, Spain had 2 goals disallowed, one for an accused shirt pulling, and the other claiming that the ball went out of bounds before the goal was scored. Watching video replays, the goals were probably wrongly disallowed, and Spain does have a right to feel cheated out of the result. Korea went on to defeat Spain in penalties, where they would eventually lose to Germany in the semifinals. Following the tournament and even today, many people have the firm belief that Korea bribed referees or somehow rigged their way to a World Cup semifinal. It is undeniable that throughout the tournament, especially against Italy and Spain, Korea received decisions that should not have gone their way. The important question is, were those decisions rigged or was it simply human error? It is not unusual for the host to perform well at the World Cup. The host nation has made it as far as the semifinals 13 times. Notably, at the 2018 World Cup in Russia, the host nation greatly overperformed expectations, upsetting Spain in the round of 16, but eventually losing in the quarterfinals to runners-up Croatia. It is also not uncommon for bad decisions to be made by referees of any sport. Although, especially in the case of Byron Moreno, it seemed like controversial decisions were not an uncommon thing in his career. Shortly following the tournament, Moreno received a 20-match ban following his questionable decisions in a game in the Ecuadorian Liga de Quito. Just 1 year later, Moreno retired. If the man was not controversial enough, Moreno was arrested in 2010 after getting caught trying to smuggle 6 kilograms of heroin through security at the JFK airport in New York. Through all this, nothing should be taken away from the South Korean players or fans. The Koreans played extremely well in the tournament, and the idea of them playing well and the matches being any degree of rigged in their favor could both have some truth. We most likely will never know if anything was actually rigged in favor of the Koreans in the 2002 World Cup.
For the free kick from Lee Yul-young. This looks promising, very promising. An Young-hwan, the Perugia striker, on as a substitute in the second half, makes it 1-1.
Also, sorry for accusing Japan of cheating at the very beginning. Apparently, they weren't involved in that at all, but I'm not going to re record that.